Hello folks, it appears that the World of Warcraft development team wants to keep us really busy this summer, with July bringing us a raft of new overlapping events in-game. But before I dive into all of that, we have also had one major announcement this week that looks a little bit further ahead. I've recently been seeing quite a few people online discussing the prospects for BlizzCon this year. Now, the bad news for anyone who's not aware is that Blizzard have already confirmed that the next BlizzCon will not be until September 2026, and that's next year. But that does not mean there is not going to be any in-person events this year, with BlizzCon making a return to Gamescom in Germany in August with a World of Warcraft booth. Blizzard used to be a bit of a regular at Gamescom, using it to announce release dates and even the Legion expansion. And this year they're going to be sharing, to put it in their own words, exclusive news and updates for the Midnight expansion, along with esports events, a cosplay showcase, and a developer meet and greet. With both the name of the expansion and its major feature, player housing, having already been announced, this is going to be a very different kind of reveal to the ones that we're used to. That does not mean that there will be nothing new though, as I will expect us to see a new cinematic along with reveals of the leveling zone names and other major gameplay features. This could also well be the time when we'll get some more specifics on the release timeline for that player housing, which the 2025 roadmap has heavily hinted could make an early appearance before the end of the year. My own personal prediction is that player housing could be offered as an early access bonus for pre-orders of Midnight launching during patch 11.2.7, somewhat similar to the way that BFA's allied races were made available during Legion's patch 7.3.5 to people who had pre-ordered Battle for Azeroth. For those of you who cannot make it in person, there currently isn't any concrete news if the event will be streamed online, but digging through the Gamescom website, it does appear that at least some of the Gamescom content will be streamed, and that makes me fairly confident that we will be able to get access to the Blizzard announcements without going to Germany. With most of the community speculating on a late winter to early spring 2026 release for Midnight, I personally think that it's very likely that the alpha for Midnight will follow very shortly after Gamescom, with the beta probably landing in late October to early November. This coming week sees the return of the Diablo-themed Greedy Emissary event. Emissary will be spawning every 30 minutes in Donegal, Stormwind and Orgrimmar, but this time around it can also spawn from the rares in Undermine. Killing any rare in Undermine will have a chance of triggering a spawn of the Emissary, with those rares being subject to a 1 hour cooldown on that spawn, something that you'll be able to see in the rare via a debuff called Portal Problems. In addition, at 15 minutes past the hour, in both Undermine and the capitals, there will be another 5 emissary portals which will spawn with affixes that can grant increased chances at getting loot. The emissary rare drops a currency that can be used to buy recolors of the reworked Tier 2 class sets, and it can also drop a new mount in Ares's Charger, and Diablo-themed charms, which offer a small open-world stat buff. Along with this event, we're also getting another major event called Collector's Bounty, which is going to be increasing the reward drops from legacy instances, and Blizzard this week has shared some extra details on what that will entail. This event will be affecting dungeons and raids from vanilla all the way through to Shadowlands, with the drop rates for mounts and a few legendary items being increased 10 times, and with one drop, which Blizzard are not revealing, being increased by 30 times. Along with that, transmog drops are being doubled, but unfortunately, pet and toy drops are not changing. And if that's not enough to keep mount collectors busy, we'll also be able to earn yet another new mount, the Sage Serpent, a green recolor of the Astral Cloud Serpent. This mount is a crossover promotion with Mists of Pandaria Classic, and in order to obtain it, you will need to complete the Pandaren starting experience in Mists of Pandaria Classic, up to and including the point where you choose your faction. This should take you around about 1 to 1.5 hours to complete, depending on your playstyle. This particular promotion launches along with the Mists of Pandaria pre-patch this coming reset, but you will need to earn the mount before the 30th of July. And finally, for all of you mount collectors, Turbulent Timeways is entering its third week this coming week. And if you want to get that brand new Infinite Pirate Dragon mount and you haven't yet got any progress towards the achievement Master of Turbulent Timeways 3, then this coming week will be your last chance to start earning your weekly progress in order to guarantee the mount. Now, this event has been affected by a bug that has resulted in some very lucky people earning more than 1 week's progress per week, even being able to get the mount in week 1. But that particular bug is not super reliable, so if you want to be certain of getting the mount, you will want to get started as soon as you can. This Tuesday will see the start of July, which means a brand new trading post. This month's trading post has a Forsaken theme and includes 3 new mounts. The Wailing Banshee's Charger is an awesome looking purple ghostly mount costing 575 tender, and the Unarmored Death Tusk Fellbore will set you back 375 tender, meaning that mount collectors are going to be able to afford both of the mounts this month. The Traveller's Journey bonus points bar is getting a bit of a refresh, being extended to offer 3 bonus rewards. Reaching 600 points will award you a cool Cauldron back piece. Reach 1000 points and you'll earn a Forsaken themed transmog set, and at 1400 points another Forsaken mount, the Forsaken Grotesque Charger. Now, Blizzard did not share in their update if this extension to the rewards track will also mean that we'll be awarded some extra traders tender, but with recent trading posts putting a lot of pressure on us mount collectors, I certainly do hope that we get some more. We're now into week 2 of the 11.2.0 PTR, which means that testers have had a chance to do a bit more exploring, and I thought it would be useful to start to bring together some of the major new discoveries. Now, I always avoid story spoilers in these news episodes, and this one's going to be no exception, so I'm not going to go into any specifics of the story itself, but I will say that taken in isolation, the 11.2.0 campaign storyline is one of the best executed I've ever experienced in World of Warcraft. Throughout the campaign, the main story NPCs regularly bicker and argue with each other, and even indulge in some very transparent attempts to manipulate our player character. And this for me has brought those characters to life in a way that I've just not experienced in World of Warcraft before. My only criticism is with the bigger picture of the entire expansion story, where both Arwena's journey to quash the threat of the old god's black blood, which is what led us to Undermine, and the 11.1.7 Faerun storyline seem to be just put on hold with no explanation, with our journey to Koresh feeling like it just emerges out of nowhere without any kind of setup. And this is even something that the writers of the new campaign seem to be very aware of, with none other than Illyria voicing complaints about being asked to abandon her ongoing search for Xal'atath. This type of jumping about isn't a new issue for World of Warcraft's storyline, of course. Wrath of the Lich King story flitted between the main story of Arthas as the Lich King, Malygos's plot to remove magic from the world, and of course the awakening of Yogg-Saron. It's very likely that both the Black Blood and Arathi threads will be picked up later again in the World Soul Saga, but I cannot help but think that the sudden swerve to Koresh would have felt a lot more like it made sense if the patch 11.1.7 campaign had instead been devoted to showing us the emerging threat that requires us to drop what we are doing and take our jaunt to another world. One of the main features of the new patch is what Blizzard have described as an artifact cloak, the Reshi Rat. Now, I suspect that I was not the only person who heard the word artifact and immediately thought of Legion's artifact weapon or the BFA neckpiece with their expansion long power grinds. Now, the good news is that while the back piece is clearly not fully implemented on the PTR so far, the early indications are that it's going to be a lot more like a Cersei circlet or Titan disc belt system, with a much shorter and more contained 5 to 6 step upgrade path. Upgrade steps require collecting 3 ethereal strands, which can drop from virtually all the types of content in the new patch. And it seems to me very likely that those items are going to be capped so that we get 1 upgrade per week. This could of course change before it goes live, but I think that this kind of cadence will avoid many of the issues of the older systems. My own personal guess is that if we get a repeat of the turbo boost mid-season though, we can expect to see another 2 to 3 steps being added to the cloak later on. While patch 11.2.0 does not seem to be adding any new major user interface additions similar to the ones that we saw in the recent minor patches, we are still getting a bunch of quality of life improvements to the game. I think pretty much everyone is familiar with the client-side lag and FPS drops that accompany large-scale raid fights and even the open-world bosses. Much of the source of that lag is the game struggling to render the spell effects of 20 to 40 players at the same time. This issue can already be mitigated to some degree by reducing particle effect density in the game's settings, but that comes at a high cost as it can make important mechanics a lot harder to see. Patch 11.2.0 is adding a brand new graphics setting that will allow us to reduce the visuals for other players' spells completely independently of those of enemy mechanics. And this is being done in a very smart way. Instead of just reducing or removing all other player spells, this setting will give us the option of removing only non-essential spell effects, meaning that things like Shaman's Acid Rain or a Death Knight's Death and Decay will still remain visible on screen, as well as hopefully reducing lag and FPS issues. This is also intended to help reduce visual clutter and overload, and should make it a lot easier to see important mechanics and player-placed ground effects. Sound-wise, we're also getting a separate volume control for gameplay sound effects. I have not bottomed out exactly what this means, but I am hoping that it's going to allow us to be able to tune out background sound effects without losing access to very important cues and warnings for major raid and dungeon mechanics. If you're like many people and play with sound off, you may not be aware, but Blizzard often do use sounds and even NPC dialogue to provide audible warnings, and these can actually be a very useful tool in helping to alert you to things that you need to deal with. So I'm hoping that this new setting will make the option of playing with sound on a lot more attractive for more players. Over on the Delve front, and Brand's level cap is being raised up to level 100. All the indications are that Delves are going to follow the pattern of Season 2, with the existing curios being wiped and replaced by a bunch of new curios to earn. One potential change to the Season 2 formula for Delves is that the Delver's Bounty map now unlocks as the second step in the Delver's Journey track. This strongly suggests that at the start of the season, we're going to have a bit of a wait before we'll get access to those maps. I'm going to hazard a guess that Blizzard will end up gating access to those maps until the season opens properly on week 2 of the new patch. And if you're wondering what's going to happen with the new overcharged delves, well, on the PTR it does appear that they are being removed, perhaps to return later on in the season. And the same is true for that upgrade console, which to me is a bit of a strange decision, given that when Blizzard explained their decision to switch to keeping Brand for the entire season, it was to avoid bad borrowed power. Adding that delve-only upgrade tree for just one patch is not what I would personally describe as a good example of borrowed power. While the Titan Disc Belt is designed to be replaced eventually, if not by Hero Track gear, then for sure by Myth Track gear, for people returning at the start of the new season, the belt will be still available, with a brand new Titan console being added in the Delver's headquarters, which will allow you the ability to obtain and upgrade the belt to catch up. On the professions front, gathering professions are getting some new nodes to collect and Koresh. These new nodes give what appears to be a new currency that you can exchange at a vendor to get some regular Kazalgar materials. This of course means that major additions to the crafting professions are probably not planned, though that could still change as the PTR progresses. That said, as is the norm for a 0.20 patch, alchemists are getting an updated healing potion to cope with the players' increasing health pools, and there's also another brand new potion, the Umbra Essentia, which provides all players with access to the very popular Night Elf Shadow Mild ratio effect. This potion does share a cooldown with DPS potions, so there is still going to be a major advantage to being a Night Elf. Data mining has also allowed us to find some more fresh hints about how the new Mythic Plus Levers debuff system is going to work. Do keep in mind that, like all unannounced data mining, this is subject to change. It seems that as well as the players who leave Mythic Plus dungeons too often becoming flagged, if a group has such a player in it, then the entire group's listing is also going to be flagged in the group finder. This will almost certainly make it much less likely for group leaders to be willing to accept a flagged player, because even if they personally don't mind, they are very likely to worry that it would end up putting others off from signing up, especially if you're looking for a healer or a tank. The data mining is also suggesting that during votes to abandon a key, the key holder's vote will be getting some extra weight. There's no information on how much extra weight it will get, but I do have some mixed feelings about this decision. It does make sense to me that the key holder who face potentially having their key becoming bricked should get more say in it, but at the same time it does also feel to me like this will cause issues with groups that end up tied, something that would be impossible if you had 5 equal votes. And it will, I think, increase the risk of people feeling like they are being held hostage. And finally, the data mining is also confirming that the leavers penalty is only going to be applied to the first person to quit a group, meaning that if somebody does leave a group you're in, you will then be free to leave without needing to worry about getting the penalty yourself. Data mining has also revealed another interesting feature that I suspect is a bit of a hint for something that we'll see in a future patch. Back when the Warband Bank was announced, game director Ian Hazzikostas said in an interview that they would like to modernise the player's personal bank so that those banks use the same tabbed approach as the Warband Bank. Well, data miners have now found a brand new set of strings which indicate that the team may be working on the process to convert existing banks into that tabbed system. These data mine strings also give some hints about how much it's going to cost to fully unlock a bank's tabs. And the good news is that at least for now, it looks like it's going to be fairly cheap, with the most expensive tab only costing 5,000 gold. I suspect that for existing characters, we will get enough tabs unlocked for free to match whatever number of slots we currently have in our bank. Given the current bag-based system means that there's a vast number of different permutations when it comes to how many slots we have currently. I honestly don't envy the developer who's having to design that conversion process. My personal view is that a change of this magnitude is far too impactful on players to be released without an announcement, so I think it's very unlikely that we'll see this change in patch 11.2.0, and I'd personally be looking for it to turn up, if it does appear at all, in maybe patch 11.2.5 or 11.2.7. And that's all the news for this week. I'd be super interested to hear your thoughts on the upcoming changes to patch 11.2.0. Are you looking forward to the new season, or are you maybe planning to take a rest until the next expansion? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you found this update helpful, entertaining, or even just plain annoying, then do let me know by hitting that like icon. And if you want to support my channel to grow and help me to make more of these videos, along with my other content, then do hit that subscribe button right now before you forget. If you don't want to miss out whenever I release a brand new video, then as well as subscribing, you can follow me on social media for notifications. My link's in the description below as well. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.